Salute to you all. The brave never fall. I often, every single day, with almost every task that I do, I try to look at things as a step-by-step process that are assembled together as if you're assembling a machine part on an assembly line, as if you're creating something with every task. And it could be the most simplest task you can think of, and I will break that down into its components so I get through that task efficiently, but I also know that I'm doing it well. There's a quote by Lao Tzu, and again, I'm a huge advocate of the Tao Te Ching, which just is basically a philosophy of principles based on discipline and routine and allowing things to happen around you, but you being in control of what your surroundings are. Those simple little acts of discipline add up, and they create the pattern and routine that you need to get through each moment. Often with people, especially with the human mind, we often will drift into areas that we're not in control of, and we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're predicting things, we're anticipating things, which is perfectly fine. That is a human response to things and situations because of prior outcomes. We know how it felt when something sprung up on us and we were not prepared for it. We know what it's like to feel anxiety because of the fear that something may go wrong. That outcome hasn't existed yet. And in a lot of ways, when you start projecting those outcomes in a negative fashion, there's nothing wrong with projecting those outcomes, envisioning outcomes, manifesting outcomes, but you want to make sure they're on the positive side of the ledger. You don't want to get into a position where you're constantly or only forward thinking about negative outcomes and then get excited about the possibility of positive outcomes. You want the outcome to be the outcome because there are things that you cannot foresee that don't fit into the equation. So living in the moment is very beneficial for me because no matter what's going to happen in the future, living in the moment, I'm preparing for whatever that's going to happen. I'm not envisioning too far down the line. I'm envisioning what's right in front of me. The big picture is what I'm envisioning down the line. I know there are big things that I can say with confidence are going to happen and what aren't going to happen. Bad things are going to happen to me in the future and good things are going to happen to me in the future. I may not necessarily know the exact details of those things, but I can prepare for both in the moment. And that's what each task that I do, subconsciously, you want to do this stuff. You don't want to overthink even the most minute tasks because then your mind is going to start, you're going to fatigue your mind on the wrong things. There's nothing wrong with fatiguing your mind. I do it every day. It's actually very much a part of what I need to do before I go to bed every night. If my mind and my body are not fatigued, I know there was something that was missing, and I will reflect on that, and I will fill that with whatever I need to make sure that when I go to bed at night, I feel like I had a fulfilled day. And it's taken me years to figure out what that feeling is. And the only way to really experience it, you have to start doing things more efficiently. You want to get more time out of your day. Knowledge is one of those things. I always felt like if you find it in your heart that you want to get passionate about learning, because it's hard to say, I'm so super motivated to read a book. I'm so super motivated to learn something new that I may not care about necessarily. But you're living in a world where all these things are happening around you, and you're living in a world where people are doing those things. And then you're surrounded by these people, and you're wondering why these people may be a little bit better off than you, seem to be dealing with life a little bit better than you. And one of those major components is that these people are seekers of knowledge. I am one of those people. I cannot go a day without learning something. I know when I go to bed at night, when it's time for me to wrap up the day and reflect on what I did, I can feel that I didn't learn something new that day. And the reason why I can feel that is because whenever I learn something new, I know that another strand of who I am has grown off of my body. That strand that I always talk about, that with all the other countless strands that are interwoven to give me a suit of armor of knowledge. That knowledge will protect you because you're going to need it in order to deal with all those things that are going to pop up in life. Things you're going to have to deal with whether you like it or not. So you might as well be knowledgeable about the things that are going to hit you. So often we're focused on the things that may hit us and we may say, well, I can handle that. I've done it before. But what about the ones that you haven't dealt with before? The situations and things that you can't even conjure up in your brain that could happen to you because they're going to happen. That's why it hurts so bad when it happens, because you can't understand how could something this obvious happen to me. I should have seen it a mile away. I should have seen it decades away. The only way to prepare for that is to learn. And here's another thing about learning. No one says that what you learn has to be about fixing cars or learning how to better cook meals or whatever. They don't have to be chores and tasks and job related things. Learning also is learning from other people's experiences about what they've learned, which is why I always say, if you're bored with learning how to do, how-to books and fix-it quick books, you can also learn through documentaries. Learn about the world around you. Biographies. Learn about the people around you, the people who have been here before. How were they successful? There's no excuse for you not to know how someone became successful. When you think about it, people ask that question all the time. I don't know how that person became successful. You don't have to guess. They've written their story. Check out how they got there. There's no successful people out there who just kept their story a secret. The most successful people out there, their blueprint is out there for all to see. Their path is out there for all to see. Follow it. What's one of the things that they're doing that you're not doing? One common thing you'll find with all successful people, and I figured this out when I was really young, and I'm talking when I was like 5, 6, or 7, I realized that every person that I looked up to, that I admired and I thought were smart and powerful and wealthy, even if they weren't. When you're a kid, everything's skewed. You can see someone making, $14,000 a year, but if they got their head on their shoulders the correct way, that person is a hero to you. And one thing I always found in those people's hands is they always would walk around in a book with a book in their hands. They were always reading. They always had their nose planted in a book. And it rubbed off on me at an early age. I fell in love with the bookmobile when I was a kid. I fell in love with all types of different books, from science fiction all the way to how to do this and that, which is why I can do so many different things now, because that never left me. There have been stretches where I've lost touch with that, and I did what everybody does. I grew into a space where I didn't really know who I was. And I lost a lot of myself for a lot of years by not learning every day. I felt like I was getting dumber. I hate to use that word, but that's what it is. It's dumb if you can't even see the fact that you're not learning anymore, that you're becoming unintelligent through non-learning. You're not going to get knowledge without gaining it. You're not going to get experience, at least positive experience, without experiencing it. You have to experience positive experiences to understand what it feels like. Because we certainly all know what it feels like to go through negative experiences and how that affects your mind and body. So it goes back to the simplest form of doing things. When you break everything down in life to components, it's very easy and simple to relate that to learning, because you can't learn everything in 1 second and be an expert at it. Sometimes you have to reread your favorite book that you feel like you got some benefit out of. You have to reread that book 3 or 4 times before you say, it's in my subconscious. I know this book backwards and forth. The books that I love to read that have had the most impact in my life, I try to read them as often as possible. I read them all the time. If you got something good out of it, why would you not go back to the source material? It's just like, life is not like riding a bike. There are things that you will forget to do if you don't stay up on it. If you're training for something, I'm a marathon runner. I know how to run. That doesn't mean I can just walk up to any marathon and just start running. I have to train for it, because my body needs to remember how to run. And I don't think running is a very good example of that, especially marathon running, because there is a science behind everything you do. You can't just walk up to the line and start running. You're going to fail big time. And you don't know that until you do it. I've been through it. Every runner would tell you that. You think you're good at it until you realize all the little intricacies that comes into play. And you have to break down every little thing into the components. Then you become a marathon runner. And that's only 10% of the battle. You still have to run the race. So I apply that to everything in small doses. Every little task. Do them in steps in your mind. Get into a rhythm. And I try to do that with everything. It has been one of the most life-changing things for me when I started doing this. And it was a long road until I got to the point where now I do it without even thinking about it. But it's just about getting into a rhythm. It's not just about walking into the kitchen in the morning and making your coffee and you're slugging around and your mind is wandering all over the place. It's about being focused. I'm going to walk into this kitchen. I'm going to make my coffee as quickly as possible. I'm going to know exactly how much water I'm pouring in. I'm going to pour it in perfectly. It's not OCD stuff here. We're just talking about being efficient and getting on to the next thing. Stop wasting time. Don't turn that 10-minute coffee making session into some 30, 40-minute long thing where by the time you walk out of the kitchen, you're like, wow, a whole hour of my life went by and it was all based on me walking in here and just getting a cup of coffee. Get in there, get your coffee, get going. Move on to the next thing. It's all about momentum. Breaking those things down into those small steps creates momentum. It's a snowball effect. And once you start doing it, especially when you wake up, that snowball is going to keep rolling all day long. And it won't stop until you say, okay, stop. You're in control of it. It's not like it has to consume you. And I don't do it when I don't have to. When it's time for me to relax, I can turn that off because I've earned my relaxation through the discipline of breaking everything down that wasn't that important so I can have time for things that are important. I don't want to spend a lot of time on things that aren't that important in my life. Making a cup of coffee is great. I don't need to spend 30 minutes in there messing around in the kitchen, being lazy and forgetting things and kind of, oh, well, who cares? I'll just halfway do it. That's not what it's about. What it's about is getting that task done so you can move on to something else. So you're getting through all those mundane tasks as fast as possible so that later on you have all that extra time that you didn't waste to do something you actually want to do that's going to bring value, true value to your life. Things that you can't truly live without, like your family, the hobbies that really bring you value, things like that. That's the stuff you want to relax with and take your time with, not the mundane stuff. Don't put yourself behind before you even get started with the day by having a mindset of, I know I'm dragging, I know this is difficult, but sorry, it wins this morning. If you do that, you lost the whole day. You have to start each morning with some sort of victory. And I always found, and this has been told by any motivational person would tell you this, if you just simply get up, don't hit snooze buttons. I have never hit a snooze button one day in my entire life. I have never, ever, ever hit a snooze button. I don't even know how to even wrap my mind around hitting the snooze button. It just doesn't work. I don't even like the sound of my alarm. I could count on both my hands, maybe 10 times in a big chunk. I would say in 6 months or something like that, I may hit my alarm because it went off. And a lot of times I'm already up. I'm just hitting it to turn it off. I don't like my alarm waking me up. And I'm still waking up earlier than I need to because it's a mind thing. Your mind is saying, I don't want to do it, but you're overriding that. And that goes back to another simple form. One of the simplest things you can do to have an instant victory the moment you wake up is to get up. If that alarm is going off, hit it. Forget about snooze. Get up. Make your bed immediately. You make it right then and there. You're not getting back in it. Make the bed and walk away from it. You're not going to get back in that bed until you've earned it. Until you've earned your nap, until you've earned your bedtime. Then you can get back in that bed. No, there's nothing wrong with rest. There's nothing wrong with naps. You take as many naps as you need. You get as much rest as you need. But earn each one of them. Unless you're sick, you're suffering from depression, all that stuff, we understand that. We're not talking about those situations. We're talking about when you're perfectly mentally fine. And you know you have no excuse to get back in that bed and you do it anyway. That's what we're talking about. If you're sick, you've earned your bedtime. If you're depressed, you may need to get back in that bed. That's your right to do that. But if you're not any of those things and everything's pretty much going okay, they're not perfect. Nothing's perfect. Stop waiting for it. You have to get up and attack the day. Earn your nap. If you take 3 naps a day, fine. Earn those 3 naps. If you have the time to take a nap, you have the time to earn it. So that's one of the things that I always felt like, to even break down these components. When you start talking about breaking down everything in your life to its simplest form, that's what it's about. And I've said this in other podcasts. There's a battle rapper named Daylight. I love this dude. He's my man. I love his mindset about things. And everything in his life is about a breakdown. And you can hear it in his lyrics and the way he rhymes and the way his mind works, that everything is broken down into components. And then they're stitched together. They're interwoven together to become a whole. That's why I talk about strands so much. The strands that come off of you, the strands of knowledge, the strands of power and courage and positivity and healing. All those strands that come off of you are interwoven into your armor. I call them strands of the brave, is what I say in my mind. I don't say it to people often, but that's what I envision myself having when I walk out the house. It's like a superhero's armor. It's the same deal. I'm protected through my knowledge, through my positivity, through my discipline, through my purpose, my focus on priorities, my commitment to my health, my commitment to my relationships, to my job, to my responsibility as a father, as a parent. All of these things are strands that come off of me. And I want them to reach as far as they can, because the farther they reach, the more times they can interwove and wrap around me. I want as much of each one of those strands as I can possibly get. Your day is a puzzle. You can envision it as a puzzle. How are you going to piece it together? What is the picture of the puzzle you're trying to put together? Is there anything on the pieces? Or do you just have a big blue puzzle with a little small 1/2 inch cloud somewhere, and you're trying to put that together? Or do you have a big blue puzzle with so many clouds that is virtually the whole thing is white and gray, and it's going to take you forever? Meaning that version of the puzzle, you have a very complicated puzzle. The other one, maybe it's too simple. Both of them are equally hard. How are you going to piece this together? It's going to take time, isn't it? It's going to take a lot of time, commitment, dedication, and focus to put either one of those together. That's your day. That is your day. You don't get to choose which puzzle is pushed in front of you. You may have a simple day, you may have a complicated day. Either way, you have to piece your day together and not make excuses about which puzzle you were dealt. Life is a flip of a coin, if you want to think of it that way. You don't know where you're going to get. But making sure you take it step by step in the simplest form. Get up, get that coffee efficiently as possible. Get your shower in. Don't spend too much time in there. Don't spend too much time sitting around drinking your coffee. Drink it. Get out of there. Get in your car. Get to work. Get to school. If you don't do any of those things, get to your workout. Get to your tasks, your hobbies, whatever it is. Get to them as quickly as possible and start your day. Start the momentum. Get some positive energy going. But take it one simple task, one simple step at a time. Don't get ahead of yourself and don't assume anything. If no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall.